Sleeves here with the Senior Pickleball Report powered by TNC Network. Let's get it going. Today we're going to talk with senior pro and coach Scott Fliegelman out of Boulder, Colorado. Scott is a former D1 tennis player, played some pro tennis, also was a high-end triathlete, completing, I believe, 5 Ironmans, as we discuss a little bit. He is currently coaching. He has some exciting news to share for the Boulder area and pickleball in general. So join us for this interview with Scott Fliegelman, senior pro, as we talk also about the National Pickleball League that he's also involved with. Okay, but first, if you like this content, consider subscribing. Check out our socials. All the links in the description for pickle paddles, bread and butter. If you want more selection, different paddles, just paddles. If you want some comfy shoes, Fitville. And, of course, our merch page. And please consider subscribing and sharing our videos. We really appreciate it. All right. On to the interview with Scott. Hey, welcome to the Senior Pickleball Report, Scott Fliegelman.
Nice to see you, Sleeves.
Thanks, man. It's good to talk to you. I don't know if you even know this, but you and I have a little, I guess, sort of in common thing. I was the guy that got your package from the pickleball clinic, and you were the guy that got mine. And then I had to send you some T-shirts, and you had to send me some stuff. So that was me.
Cool to figure that out. Yeah, I love those guys at the clinic. They're doing good stuff.
They absolutely are. All right. Hey, I like to start off with stuff that's new. And I was following you on Instagram the other day, and you brought up that you are doing a podcast, which piqued my interest because I love to see 4.0 to pro, because that's roughly where I think of myself. And I'd love to get to a point where I could actually, play at a 5.0 level someday. But talk about the podcast and talk about your partner, Michael, and what you're doing there.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it more than I expected I would. So I've known Mike O'Neill for almost 30 years. We met kind of over tennis, and then mountain biking and some other things went our separate ways. He was out here in Boulder for a little while now, out in Southern California. Played a bunch of racquetball and like many of us found his way into pickleball, and has been asking me for a little while to get together and do this. He's a full-time podcaster. That's his world.
Oh, okay. Yeah, great.
And as he likes to say, he's a 4-point something, but pretty darn good player.
Yeah.
And I think we make a good combo, because in some ways he's asking me the questions that represent a lot of 4-point somethings, and we tailor our content toward that. But I think it's also quite valuable for the 3.0 and 3.5 player as well.
Right on. Yeah, it's nice to have somebody to kind of go back and forth with on a podcast. I've done a couple in my life, and it's much easier than trying to carry it solo. There's more of a flow. So, and especially if you got a guy that's done it, and it's his deal, and he kind of knows how to do that already. So.
Yeah, he says his job is to make me look good, so I'm down with that.
Right on. So, are there episodes coming out? Are there episodes out? Where's that at?
We've released the first 3.
Okay.
We've got 3 more in the can, so to speak, that'll be coming out pretty soon. And I'm digging it. I like what we're doing so far.
Yeah.
Part of our shtick is bite size. Episodes that are 15, 16, 17 minutes long. I really like the idea of visualizing our listeners drive into work or drive into the courts, tune us in and have something good to chew on when they hop out of the car.
Right.
I tend not to have 75, 90 minutes of spare time to listen to podcasts. I'm more of a 15, 20-minute guy. So
yeah, hopefully
that works.
Yeah, right on. So how often will they be out?
Every week or 2.
Okay.
So. I think we'll find our rhythm. I've got a lot going on. So, Mike's just trying to nail me down to like we did today, to
Yeah.
just try to find some time. We do a little bit of preparation, but a decent amount of it is extemporaneous. We don't want to be too scripted. So
Right.
I think we're finding the rhythm.
Cool. Right on.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously you do podcasts, you play pickleball at a professional level, you coach. What do you see your focus in the game sort of coming?
Yeah. So I'm like 3.5 years into this thing called Boulder Pickleball, which, when I
Mhm.
started playing here in Boulder, Colorado, a few years ago, I didn't really know, like many of us, we get into the game, we don't really know where it's going.
Yeah.
So I started developing some content and grabbing the Instagram handles and
Yeah.
some other things like that. And I've been teaching a lot, but we're in Colorado. Winter's not great for that,
Right.
and we haven't had a whole lot of courts available to us. So hot off the presses, big announcement.
Oh.
Just signed the lease on Boulder Pickleball, the indoor experience.
Oh.
So downtown Boulder, foothills in Pearl, great location. We've got almost 20,000 square feet. We'll have 5 beautiful indoor pickle roll courts. We're going to have a skinny singles court and a kitchen court right next to the teaching court. We're right around the corner from a great brew pub. So we can't wait to get jamming. Right now, a little optimistic, but we've got a Cinco de Mayo grand opening weekend planned.
Oh, wow. Man. So that's I would say that's a big announcement, especially
Yeah.
like you just mentioned, obviously in Boulder, where you want to have some indoor facilities so you can play obviously year round. And I love the skinny singles court and the kitchen area. Skinny singles, I'm looking to jump in a tournament eventually here in April. I play a lot of it just with locals here, but I don't know. It's a cool game. There's nuances to it that all of a sudden you start playing it, you're like, oh, there's little things you got to do a little different in this game. So
Yeah, I think it'll be fun for people to play on. It'll also
Mhm.
be adjacent to our teaching court. I am putting together a pro staff that'll work with me as well, and
Yeah.
we'll have a dedicated teaching court, skinny singles, and that kitchen court, so we can have 8, 10, 12 players jamming. They're a great training area to
Yeah.
have the skinny singles. We have a ball machine in the area as well. And then I'm also, as we're talking here, talking about the podcast and some other stuff, we'll
Yeah.
have more of a studio feel. I'll be able to video some good content, right off the teaching court. Just kind of fire up the
Yeah.
phone and capture it while it's hot.
Yeah. You're gonna have it going, man. And the Cinco de Mayo opening. That's cool.
Why not? Why
That's
not?
right.
You're invited.
Cinco de
You're
Mayo.
invited. Get on
Yes.
out
Oh,
here.
right on, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'll have to. Well, I mean, you don't have to twist my arm to come to Boulder. That's a fantastic place to be for anything. So speaking of Boulder, I mean, obviously you are in what I consider one of the, if not the Mecca in the United States as far as outdoor activities. And, you talked about you play tennis, you play pickleball. But yeah, I understand you're a triathlete. So talk a little bit about that and your tennis background and sort of how those things kind of maybe brought you to pickleball and what they bring to pickleball for you.
Yeah, it's funny when I think chronologically, to help answer that question, it adds up to makes me pretty old. When I think about all
Yeah, I
these
know. I
years,
feel you, brother.
the numbers are getting bigger. When I
Yeah.
think about how long ago I was a tennis player. But like a lot of the senior pros on the tour, I grew up with a racket in my hand for probably from age 6 to 26.
Oh, okay. Serious.
Pretty much every day.
Yeah.
And I played Division I tennis, and I kicked around on the Satellite Challenger circuit in the Southeast. Slept on
Yeah.
couches in Rock Hill, South Carolina.
So you have
living the
game. You have
glamorous
some
life.
serious game.
I did, but then I moved to Boulder in the late '90s and
Okay.
put the rackets down. I didn't pick them back up. I got drawn in by the mountains and the endurance sport nature, and became a fairly serious runner and triathlete. But then made my business around the aspiring endurance sport athlete. I started a company called Fast Forward Sports.
Okay.
And over 11 years, we had 4,000 unique aspiring athletes in our program. Boulder serves the elites really well. This program was more for the age group athlete.
Okay. Yeah.
And I got to a competent level, for sure, but I felt more excited about what I was able to do for the sport and for the aspiring athlete in Boulder.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, I always wanted to do, I did one triathlon. I did a triathlon where I'm not a strong swimmer. So I did the canoe bike run, and I'm a strong runner. I ran collegiately, and that's always been my thing up until recently. And, but I've always admired the people that can just get out there and swim and then somehow jump on a bike. And then, the transition between the bike and the run was tough enough for me. I just remember my legs taking about a half mile to get back to something, but I have all the praise in the world that people that can do the swim and they can do the bike. And like, what distances are you doing? Olympic distance, anything higher than that?
Well, it's funny you say that, because I resisted triathlon for a while because I was a non-swimmer.
Yeah.
And I used to say, if triathlon was a set of tennis, bike, and run,
yeah, there you go.
I'm your guy. And in my 30s, I submitted to what we like to call adult onset swimming, and I threw myself into the first lane, youngest one by 35 years, but managed to learn how to swim. Right. I ended up doing 5 Ironman triathlons.
Oh, good for you,
man. Starts off with a 2.4 mile swim.
Yeah, that's no joke.
No, my very first triathlon, my written goal was exit the water unassisted.
Yes, that's a good goal.
From there, it was gravy.
Yeah. So for you, was the challenge the swim more than anything else? Really? Yeah. Okay.
Sure. Yeah, I was a good cyclist and a good runner. I would pass people, once I got out of the water. Which is a better way to go than to be a collegiate swimmer and then not much of a biker and runner. That's kind of demoralizing as people go by you the rest of the time.
Right on.
But to put the pieces together for you to answer your question a little bit more, about 4 years ago, give or take, one of the athletes I was coaching for triathlon, I was looking at her training logs and it said swim, bike, run, pickleball.
Oh.
And I got on her case. I said, look, you have some lofty goals. The Hawaii Ironman triathlon. I don't know what the heck this pickleball thing is. And she said, you were a former, pro tennis player. You would love it. And she got me out on the court. And no kidding, a week later, I had dropped out of the Leadville 100 mountain bike race, sold a mountain bike. And I don't think I've run more than 10 miles. I hardly ever ride anymore. And, the rest is history with pickleball.
It's a weird thing. I've run for 25 years. I took 10 years, kind of had a little bit of a break in there. And then I started running again, and I ran another, 5 to 10 years since then. And I did about the same thing. I got into pickleball, and I'm like, I sort of told myself, part of it is what I told myself is like, my knees just can't do both.
Sure.
And that's true on some levels, but the other level is like, I have a heel spur. So I'm like, I'm just too sore after running to do any drilling with pickleball. And honestly, pickleball is so much, it's so much more fun than running. And I put about all I can in on that sport. And, I ran collegiately. Like I said, I've done marathons, I've done 5Ks. I'm not going to PR anymore. And so I'm finally getting into a sport where I'm like, this is fun, and I can eat between things.
For sure.
Not have to worry about my stomach or anything like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I felt pretty grateful that it seemed like I got into pickleball when I was 51.
Yeah.
And, I feel like the stars aligned for me that, there was a sport invented for me for my 50s with my tennis background and my endurance sport background. And I was just into what, I would find out was the senior pro thing.
Right.
And I feel really lucky that I found pickleball when I did.
Yeah, absolutely. I played a lot of 2-man beach volleyball. That was my other sport instead of running, other than running. And so that's really my only court experience. Like anybody else, I had a tennis racket, would dust it off every so often, and played racquetball once or twice in my life. But what I found with pickleball is, like everybody finds, you're somewhat competent right away. You have some decent hand-eye coordination. And I'm not ambidextrous, but I do a lot of things left-handed, and I do a fair amount of things right-handed, and I can get away with switching hands fairly seamlessly if I need to, if I'm out of position. So this sport allows me to do that, which is cool.
Yeah, much harder to do in tennis with the the longer, heavier racket, and but pickleball, it good for you. That's a handy thing to have.
Yeah, and I kind of picked. I didn't. I was like, God, should I really be doing this? And then I saw, I've talked to Rick Witskin twice, and I watch him play. I'm like, he does it all the damn time.
Yeah, I found that out the hard way.
Yeah, I mean,
playing Rick in singles.
Yeah, and Rick's a big guy to pass. I mean, big man.
I know, he closes off the court beautifully, and you think there's room to the backhand side, and then all of a sudden the paddle's in his left hand.
Hey, you know what we got? We have a newsletter. Yes, Senior Pickleball Report, SPR newsletter, which is cool because it keeps you up to date with not only pickleball, but an emphasis on senior pickleball. There's a link in our description, and you get caught up on all things pickleball. So check it out. Hey, if you're looking for very, very comfortable court shoes, in fact, the most comfortable court shoes I've ever worn, and I've worn a lot of them over the years playing different sports, try Fitville. We have a link in the description that gets you $20 off your purchase. So speaking of Rick, kind of one of the people getting NPL going, National Pickleball League team event for seniors. I mean, you want to talk about, dude, you're stepping into it at the right time. Not only can you play senior pro tournaments, but now they're developing a league, which, obviously Major League Pickleball changed the landscape and as far as excitement and fans really getting into it. I'm really interested to see what NPL can do, and talk to me about what your thoughts are going forward with that.
I'm curious and I'm fired up and I can't wait and all of those things. I love the people that are behind it. They asked me to get involved early on. They didn't have, all of the details quite figured out yet, but I was more than willing to, put my trust in the people behind it and commit for season one and go all in and see how it goes. I love the idea of the team dynamic. Last year, there was a terrific inaugural event through the APP called the Melissa McCurley Cup that was launched at the New York City event, and we had Team East versus Team West, and it was a lot of fun. Beth Bellamy and I got to captain the Team West.
Oh, fun!
Which was a daunting. It was much more challenging for us to get an A+ crew to go all the way to New York City. It's a little bit easier for the East team, to make that happen. But we put up a good fight. It was a lot of fun. So I think we're going to have a similar dynamic with NPL. It looks like some larger teams, maybe 20 or so players per team, as opposed to that MLP style, which is awesome, but different.
Right.
And I'm personally excited. I don't know what role I'll play on a team yet, but I'm hoping that I'll have a chance to be on a team with players I've never met before.
Right.
It's open to 4 or 5+. So, players who are maybe stepping up to a higher level than they've been at before. And I can't wait for that team dynamic and hopefully be a leader, when it comes to that team dynamic and bring them along, answer questions and play together with them.
Yeah. Very cool. And
cool.
I mean, the locations, I mean, Chicken and Pickles, I think because of kind of the proximity, it's a cool place to go and hang out with, you can bring the family. It just seems like and it's going to be a consistent venue. I mean, I'm sure they're slightly different, but setting up logistics for, putting on those types of events, it can't hurt that you come to a place and the general gist of the place is the same as the other place, and you're not at some completely new venue and you got to figure out things. But I think the location's perfect for what y'all are trying to do. So
I'm excited about that. That was a feather in the cap. When they put the program in front of us. I had a chance last summer to go to my first Chicken and Pickle in Oklahoma City as the senior pro mentor for the next gen event that APP puts on. And I love the venue. I love that event. It was, a really cool opportunity. I dig the indoor setup. It's a little toasty in Oklahoma City in July. So
sure.
The outdoor courts were a little rougher, but they have some shaded courts that we were on, and the kids weren't complaining at all. They were just happy to play pickleball with other high level under 23s from around the country, and I was just super stoked to be there with it.
Yeah, I think that's really cool what they've done with the senior pros, the champion pros, kind of mentoring the next generation stuff. I think that is invaluable information, not only obviously on the court, but just, mentally how to approach the game, and just, in some cases, just general life experience. Have you had a chance to mentor any people like that?
It's ongoing. That was a
Yeah,
great event that introduced me to some of these players. I've gotten a chance to get to know Aaron from the Pickleball Clinic and
right.
Richard, and we've continued a relationship there. I played an Open Pro tournament with Eli Bertram, who I met him at that event, and up and
Cool.
coming. I think he's 19 years old or so. And then Jaden Broderick, who's a player to watch. Not that you heard it here first, but
Yeah.
about 6'6", left-handed, fantastic two-handed backhand, soccer goalie before that, some tennis background, super
Yeah.
kid, super family. I at this Oklahoma City event, I actually beat him in singles.
Yeah.
And then I saw him in Daytona a couple weeks ago, and I said, I'm going to regret this as soon as it comes out of my mouth, Jaden. But do you want a rematch? And we got out on court, and in 6 months, I mean, his game has just, risen to such a great level. I was thrilled to lose 11-7, 11-7
Yeah.
against this kid, but yeah, super fun. And I love just the ongoing relationships that came from that next gen event. So thank you, Ken Herman, for your efforts there.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and that's the thing, let's talk about this. That I guess, I don't know if this is the correct way of putting it, but the farm system that is, the generation, or the players being generated into this game on a daily basis, and the masses that are coming to it from all sports, but, in particular racket sports like tennis, the talent level that I'm really fascinated to see what the landscape looks like in about 5 years. I mean, just in a year and a half since I've been paying attention, it's gone through the roof as far as like the game has gotten so much faster just in the last year and a half I've been watching. Like, if you watch a tournament from 2019, it doesn't look like anything like they're doing now.
No, and right now, I mean, who knows what it's going to be in 5 years, but
Yeah.
The modern era, which I don't know, make up an amount of months, maybe 14, 15 months.
Yeah.
A combination of, I think, some quality increases in the technology and equipment.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's personal. And then the influx of just incredible young athletes, primarily from tennis, but not exclusively.
Yeah. Right.
And what they are able to do with the modern equipment, I think makes for a more exciting product on the court.
Yeah.
And who knows where it'll go from there. I think there needs to be limits, on what the equipment can do, so we can keep it at least somewhat close to the driveway game, which
Sure.
was the intention when it was invented. But it's very exciting to see, and who knows in 5 years what that's going to look like.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching a podcast the other day, and Zane Navrata was talking, and he said, and he brought up an interesting point. He said, we sort of hem and haw about, what we check, what we should test on paddles. And he goes, on some level, let them do what they want to do with paddles and just adjust the ball.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, it seems like an easier thing to sort of control on some levels, as far as, having on-site testing. And I get it, you don't want to have, obviously some of these rackets with gigantic, sort of trampoline effect, but it'll be fascinating to see also if the ball does change over the years. Cause it seems like everybody's still working on the ball as well.
Yeah, and there's the noise elements, when it comes, there's more and more courts being built closer and closer to, where people don't want to hear, that sound all the time. So, I'm not sure exactly how that'll play out, but there's so much more money in the game than there was a couple of years ago, not only in prize money, but for, startup paddle companies are able to do well because there's so many more players, and it's fun to watch and be right in the midst of it.
It is, I'm getting a lot more contacts from smaller companies. It's nice to see that somebody can, kind of find a niche and find their own sort of voice in this giant paddle market, and still, sell enough paddles to keep afloat, in competing against, the giant ones that have all the models and stuff like that. And yet there's some really, really good products out there. at really affordable prices. I mean, you see some stuff obviously going 250, 300 plus, but I just hit a paddle the other day. It's one of the better paddles it's $80 and it's really good. And that makes me happy to see that they can produce stuff that's high quality for still under $100. So
yeah, lots of good stuff out there. I don't begrudge any of the companies for offering whatever price point they think the product
for sure
can command. If it's too expensive, the public won't buy it.
Right.
They can adjust their prices accordingly. It's cool to see from $60-$70 up to 300 that there's great options for every type of player and every type of pocketbook.
Absolutely. All right. Before we get you out of here, let's just talk personally about your game and sort of where you'd like to see it go over the next couple of years and what you're hoping to accomplish as a player.
So, my situation is a little bit different than most of my peers on the senior pro tour. I'm, super blessed to have both a ninth grader and a second grader at home.
Right on.
So 2 young boys. Ninth grader got on the freshman basketball team this year, which pretty much meant we were all on the freshman basketball team this year.
I get it. Yeah.
Practices and games, and it was a blast. But none of that's going to slow down. And as I mentioned earlier in our conversation, we're opening an indoor facility. So I'm not on the tour full time.
Right.
So that impacts my ability to make long-term partnership arrangements.
Yep.
Which I look at the upside. I love having the chance to play with a range of different partners, and I've had some good luck, some really good luck, mostly good luck with all of the partners. And I pride myself on being able to play well with most players. And I think from the NPL standpoint, that's going to serve me well, to be an easy partner to play with, and I can get the most out of my partners. So, that said, I'm competitive. I'd really like to do well when I do take the court and go to the expense and the time to go to these events. I will spend the better part of 8-9 days in Naples for the US Open. I'm signed up for 5 events.
Right on.
And I'm ready to make that rock. I've got good partners and I'll be ready to play. My singles results are usually pretty good, but it's the thing I practice the least. So I've got some young guys around here I'm going to have to drag out on the court so I can be ready to go in the Naples heat in a couple of months.
That's right. Yeah, that humidity. Well, I mean, not that you can take this for granted, but you do have an extensive background of high quality play in tennis and now in pickleball that you can lean back on. Like when I talk to Rick Witzkin, he says, I don't have time to practice. I play tournaments. He goes, and I don't know if my body could take practicing and playing tournaments as well. We're all in our 50s now, so we all react differently. But guys like you, and the talent that you already have, it's a nice thing to kind of lean on when you need it. So that's cool.
Yeah, I think my legacy fitness from triathlon has now been completely used up. So I do actually have to prepare off the court, especially for the rigors of singles. I was hobbled this past year by a case of plantar fasciitis, which
that's brutal.
I somehow made it through 20 years of endurance sport without having, and then I get it playing pickleball, and that was 8
hit a
months.
wiffle ball, right?
Woo, not good, but maybe I didn't overtrain.
Yeah, pretty brutal.
Yeah.
I've gone through it myself, and my wife just got over it. So, hey, Scott, really appreciate you taking the time, and best of luck with the new facility, and obviously NPL in your game, and freshman basketball, dude.
Right on. Yeah, great to meet you. Thanks for having me on.
Okay, folks, that's our interview with Scott. All his links for his sponsors and the things he's involved with are in the description. Thanks for watching, and hey, let's pickle. New paddle company, Pickle, PCKL, great paddle line, great price points. Anything you want from starter paddle to intermediate to a pro series high level paddle. Check them out. Get 15% off using my discount code. Pickle, it's the future.